Oh, extra credits, what are you doing? This ain't good, buddy. You really fucked up, buckaroo. What were you thinking? How did you think this was going to be a good idea?
What were they thinking? What the fuck were they thinking?
What kind of crack were they smoking?
What were they thinking? What were they thinking? What were they thinking?
I couldn't even imagine what they were thinking.
Okay, so what the fuck's happening? Well, there's a channel by the name of Extra Credits. This is a channel with about 2.1 million subscribers, which mainly focuses on essays and speeches about video games. And I won't deny, I used to watch these guys a few years back. But as time went on, these guys went further and further up into their own ass, with videos decrying games like The Division and Call of Juarez as racist since you shoot at minorities, who shoot back and tend to open fire first, but don't think about that. Then they moved on to essentially calling for the removal of games like Hatred since it's meany and violent, to defending the idea of loot boxes and microtransactions, and even implying the idea that video games should be more expensive on top of all of this. Yeah, you may have picked up on the reference during the NBA video that I put out. Yeah, these guys are complete retards. So they went from a watchable series about video games and kind of their own opinion and their own interpretation of the medium, and turned into a bunch of pretentious, overly moralistic cunts who want to be seen as warriors for the video game medium and defenders of the community, while gatekeeping and excluding shit that personally offends them. Now, I have absolutely zero clue about what happens behind the scenes in the videos, but quite frankly, I don't care. All I know is that they went from watchable and sort of decent to IGN's personal cockholster. So what do they do now? Well, they showed that they either think their audience is mentally retarded or is actually made up of children. Their new video, summarized for the sake of saving your brain cells, though I will put in clips simply for the sake of context, essentially says that World War II games shouldn't have Nazis as an enemy team in multiplayer.
There you are, playing the PvP in your World War II shooter, and all of a sudden, you're a Nazi. Yes! Yes! You didn't ask for this. You didn't choose this. Yet there it is. And it's treated no differently than playing a British soldier.
Yes, Extra Credits literally said that games that have a multiplayer component and a World War II theme that allow you to play as the Axis, because they are kind of seen as the main bad guy from World War II, or, you know, just terrorists from Counter-Strike, because they also reference that, are harmful. What Extra Credits essentially wants is for game companies to either do like an hour-long cutscene explaining before each and every match that you aren't actually going to be playing as the Nazis or terrorists in PvP, that it's all fantasy and that the real Nazis or terrorists were super bad and evil, and you shouldn't laugh at them or joke about them or look into why they believe the way they do. No, they're just bad. You can't ever take them lightly. They're just bad. Or just completely remove the factions altogether and just have it as a red versus blue scenario.
Frame PvP as a training exercise, or simply take one of your non-odious sides and recolor them so that it's red versus blue, rather than Axis versus Allies. A good example of a game that does this is Rainbow Six Siege.
And why should companies do this? Why should studios do this? Because actual terror victims or Holocaust survivors will feel bad.
We can do better than this. Even if you put aside all of the people who have had traumatic experiences with these groups, who have lost loved ones to terrorists, or who have had generations of their families wiped out by Nazis, no one should have to put on the costume of an ideology they find abhorrent without actually opting into it in your game.
Fuck you!
Also, that having players play as Nazis or terrorists will eventually lead them to sympathizing with them and making edgy jokes. No, I'm not kidding, that was actually one of their points.
It means you might not take iron crosses all over a website as a warning sign that you should immediately leave, and if you don't leave, you might start reading and buying into hateful ideas there. By the time you've played 100 hours of being a Nazi, their voice stabs become memes and in-jokes with your friends. By the 1000th time you've respawned as a terrorist, you're either celebrating them or making fun of them.
Now, this is about as retarded as it gets. No, this is worse than retarded. This is special needs level. A complete and total brain-dead move, the ultimate in the art of the posted cringe.
Bro, you just posted the cringe. You're going to lose. Subscribe.
I'm just going to get my personal issues right out the gate. Art should be free, completely free. Artists, creators, studios, what have you, should be given the right to create things that they wish to, so long as it does not harm other people in the process. Obvious examples of harm being snuff films and child porn. I defend something like El Topo, which had a small naked child in the beginning of the film, but definitely not something like Bum Fights, which actually exploited and harmed people in the filming of the movie. Other than that, why should art be limited by the white knight bitches that pop up every few years? Trick question, it shouldn't, and Extra Credits used to believe in this as well, but now they're all on board with the censor things that cross the line. Also, the line is arbitrarily whatever we say it is, bandwagon. Now, are all multiplayer World War II or modern military shooters works of art? No, definitely not. But I don't have to defend their right to exist, because the excuses Extra Credits wears are blatant and really disgusting. These dudes literally exploit the deaths of Holocaust victims and the victims of terrorism to get companies to crack down on video games in the way they want. That's scummy, bordering on evil in a lot of ways, and I feel like people picked up on that considering the like ratio, whatever, that they're suffering right now. Because there was zero mention of films like Letters from Iwo Jima, which revolved around Japanese soldiers preparing for the American invasion of Iwo Jima. World War II-era Japan was a fascist state on pretty much the same level as Nazi Germany. Or, the film Downfall, which literally followed Adolf Hitler in his bunker as the final days of World War II happened. These films actually address the culture and life of a fascist dictatorship. And really, you are giving context to why people are the way they are, and how they live in this life, but it's still, there. And it's still showing Nazis and people that believe in Nazis and fascism in a sympathetic light. But, none of this actually matters, because Extra Credits doesn't even care about this either, since neither the mention of Imperial Japan or even Stalinist Russia, both genocidal murder states that killed a lot of people, ever comes up in the video, despite also showing up as playable factions in online shooters. This is just the whining of a bunch of soy boy cunts. Cunts that think showing a Nazi on the screen and having people make jokes and laugh at their expense will lead to a new Reich. Now, there are plenty of people and games that actually want to explore the idea of controlling a fascist-style government and put you at the helm to see how it would run. Stellaris, Hearts of Iron, Frostpunk, they all not only include Nazi-style governments, but have you directly control it and do Nazi things. And before anyone says something like, well, Stellaris doesn't force you to play as a fascist dictatorship, we do not tolerate Xeno scum here. There is no choice but to throw the disgusting tentacle heads into the camps. There is no other way to play Stellaris other than the righteous fury of mankind.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
Also, you're never forced to buy the World War II or modern military shooter in the first place either. It's always a choice, and no one walks into a Battlefield or Counter-Strike game and doesn't expect to play as a bad boy. Don't want to play as a Nazi? Don't buy Call of Duty World War II. Play Resident Evil or Wolfenstein or something. It's that simple. But no, it's the same spoiled-ass behavior that kills so many other games. I want to have fun even if I have to force everyone else to be miserable. And really, what grown-ass adult can't handle playing a Nazi in a video game? By this logic, no actor should ever take a role as a Nazi, since they would obviously need to research the role, then be exposed to the deadly poison of World War II history. Jesus fucking Christ, man up and deal with it. It's a video game. This is actually embarrassing. It's literally the logic that politicians used to try to censor video games in the 90s, or church groups used against D&D in the 80s. The only difference now is that the people preaching it pretend to actually give a fuck about this hobby. Suck a cock. Also, if you despise the disgusting alien scum as well, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. But only if you hate aliens though. Xeno lovers, fuck off.